are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, May 24th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about Antonio Brown and talking about him going bankrupt, filing for bankruptcy. So I wanted to get into that and just kind of talk about, how he went from being one of the best players in the NFL to where he is right now. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that, and I'm not going to get into every single detail because a lot of it is a little inappropriate, so I'm not going to, touch upon the inappropriate things. But I just want to go through just the timeline of, from when he was playing to right now, where he is at currently. So we'll get into that. Then I will continue going over each team's individual schedule, so I know I'm right now in the NFC East. I did the Cowboys yesterday, the Eagles the day before, so now I'll be doing the New York Giants, so my team, and don't worry, the Giants are going 17-0. Yeah, I guarantee that. But yeah, we'll get into that in the second part of the show. Then we're going to talk about Josh Allen praising rookie wide receiver Keon Coleman, talking about the kind of impact that he can have on the season. With Stefon Diggs now not being in Buffalo anymore, he's going to be taking on a big role, so we'll get into that as well. We'll talk about Jim Harbaugh kind of changing the culture already with the Chargers and, how they're attacking OTAs at the moment. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the Giants again, actually. Daniel Jones being confident about him being ready for Week 1 when the Giants take on the Minnesota Vikings. So, with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Antonio Brown and him going bankrupt. And it's interesting because he earned more than $80 million during his time playing in the NFL. And it's like, well, where'd all that money go? And so getting into this now, he filed for bankruptcy in Florida's federal court. He claims his current assets are worth less than $50,000, and like I just said, despite earning more than $80 million during his NFL career, he owes $3 million to 8 different creditors, including $1.2 million to a truck driver that he assaulted in 2020. Brown's career was marked by legal issues and controversies. Going back to 2018 in October, he was sued for throwing furniture off a balcony that nearly struck a toddler. He also was cited for reckless driving in 2018. 2019, he was involved in a domestic dispute investigation. He was sued by his personal chef in the summer of 2019, and he was accused of sexual assault by his former personal trainer. And that's just, part of it. There's a lot more. There's things that he's posted on social media that are really inappropriate. I mean, it just goes on and on and on with Antonio Brown. And for a football fan, like hardcore football fans, it's sad. Because he was idolized when he was playing for the Steelers. He was a fan favorite for a lot of football fans. And I remember, you go back to 2017 when the Steelers were playing the Patriots. That was in, I want to say it was like week 15. But that was the game that Jesse James caught the game-winning touchdown, and then they ruled it incomplete. And then Ben Roethlisberger threw an interception, and the Patriots won that game. And that really decided the number 1 seed. But Antonio Brown got hurt in that game. And I just remember him being helped off the field, and you heard fans all over the stadium chanting MVP. And then he came back for the playoffs against the Jaguars. And I think he had 2 touchdowns, but he had a really good game. I mean, the Steelers lost that game to the Jaguars. The final score was 45-42. But they lost that game. But you just think back to that moment and to where he is right now. It's like, what happened? And many people point to the collision with Vontaze Burfict in the playoffs against the Bengals, which was, a lot of people think that was like the turning point for Antonio Brown, because his behavior changed, and everyone just points to that a lot. Well, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people point to that injury or that collision as to why Antonio Brown is acting the way he is right now. Now, I'm not going to say that is definitely the reason, but you go back to that, and things started to change. I mean, look at the last time the Steelers won a playoff game. It was against the Chiefs back in 2016. Well, 2016-2017. 2016-2017 season. And again, I'm not going to say that collision with Burfict had anything to do with what I'm about to say, but Antonio Brown was Instagram living while Mike Tomlin was addressing the team after the game, because they were going to go play the Patriots the following week. And Antonio Brown decided that he's going to Instagram live, and you could hear exactly what Mike Tomlin is saying. And that just rubbed people the wrong way. And, even after that, you had him getting into fights with Ben Roethlisberger, I believe, as well. And after the 2018 season, because now we'll flash forward now. We talked about 2017 a little bit. Now you go to 2018, and the Steelers lose that tough game to the Saints in New Orleans. And that was the last game that Antonio Brown ever played for the Steelers. Juju Smith-Schuster fumbles the ball at the end of the game. Now, the Steelers weren't completely eliminated from playoff contention. They needed a lot of help the next week. They did win, but they still didn't make it. That was Antonio Brown's last game as a Steeler. And I think the Steelers voted Juju Smith-Schuster as the team MVP, and Antonio Brown was not happy about it because he took it to social media. And he brought up, he posted old DMs from Juju Smith-Schuster before, he was drafted into the NFL. And just how, he wanted my help. He was seeking advice from Antonio Brown. And then I think he called him, what did he say? It was something along the lines of Boo Boo Schuster fumbled the season or something. And then Antonio Brown eventually got traded. Now, initially, he was going to get traded to the Buffalo Bills. I remember. I think it was late at night, and it was announced that he's going to the Bills. He was going to play with Josh Allen. But then he tweeted, I think he tweeted fake news or something, and they were never mind. That's not happening. So then he got traded to the Raiders, and then there was that whole thing with they wouldn't let him wear a certain helmet, and just, I think he cursed out Mike Mayock, who was the general manager at the time. for the Raiders. And then I think he was recording phone calls with John Gruden, who was the head coach at the time. But then the Raiders, they let him go. And then the Patriots picked him up. And he played for one game in 2019, and then that was it. And then it looked like he was done. Then when Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers, Tom Brady brought Antonio Brown in. And Antonio Brown helped them win a Super Bowl. And then you go to 2021, and Antonio Brown has that, that he goes on a tirade on the sidelines. He takes off his jersey, he's throwing his gloves into the crowd, and he walks off the field. And that's the last time you ever saw him on an NFL field. And then since then, it's just been downhill from there. You're hearing all these things. I mean, I went through some of it, but I mean, it's just, and some of it's while he was still playing with the Steelers. The stuff of him throwing furniture off a balcony. That was 2018. That's still with the Steelers. But again, that's not all of it. I mean, like I said, there are some inappropriate things that he has posted on social media. And it's just, it's like I said, for NFL fans, it definitely, it's a tough watch. It's tough to see because where he was at one point with the Steelers, and it's weird because he'll post different things, and he has posted on X that, he wishes that things went better with Pittsburgh, I believe. Or was that Le'Veon? I mean, both of them, I think, wish they didn't leave Pittsburgh. And he's criticized Ben Roethlisberger on social media, but then I remember he went back on his comments and said how he loves Ben Roethlisberger. So it's just, and it did. Listen, if it didn't work with Tom Brady, it's not going to work with anybody else. Tom Brady literally took Antonio Brown in and let him stay at his house, and that didn't work. Unfortunately, it's someone that needs help. And like I said, it's tough for a lot of football fans that grew up loving Antonio Brown and watching him play. And he was the best receiver in the NFL at one point. But now he really has fallen since then. And like I said, it's tough to watch. So that's pretty much what I have to say on it. Again, I could go on and on about it, but we don't have all day to discuss this. But let me know what you guys think about this whole Antonio Brown situation. It's tough to see, really, from where he once was to where he is now. So we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we will discuss the New York Giants. We'll talk about their schedule. I'll give you my early win-loss prediction with their schedule, and that's what we'll do when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the Giants. We'll break down their schedule. I know we've done the Cowboys and the Eagles so far, so now the Giants are today. And I was kind of going through it last night. Got to switch around a couple things here. yeah, kind of a weird transition going from talking about Antonio Brown to now just talking about the Giants. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. So this is the Giants' 2024 schedule. And they start off at home against the Vikings. Now, I think the Vikings are a better team. However, the quarterback position, it's a mystery, I guess. Well, kind of is, kind of isn't, on who's going to start, whether it's going to be J.J. McCarthy or it's going to be Sam Darnold. And I think regardless of who does start for the Vikings, I think this is a game the Giants can win. Now, again, I like the Vikings roster as a whole better than I do the Giants. I like the Giants' defensive line, of course. I've spoken positively about that. But when you look at the Vikings on offense, I mean, they blow away the Giants. But I think this is a game the Giants can win with some uncertainties at quarterback with the Vikings. And again, it's week 1. It's a home game. I think the Giants get off on the right foot and they win that game. So I'm going to say the Giants start off the season 1-0. Then they take on the Commanders in week 2. And listen, I talk about some uncertainties at quarterback. We don't know if Daniel Jones is going to be starting. Now, I'm going to talk about him later in the show, how he is confident that he's going to be ready for week 1. So let's just go with the assumption that Daniel Jones is going to be starting. So, Giants start off 1-0. Then they take on the Commanders. Now, Washington is a team that the Giants just seem to own year after year. 2021 was a little bit of a break for the Commanders because they ended up sweeping the Giants because, well, the Giants weren't very good. And the Giants weren't very good last year either, but the Commanders were worse. And the Commanders have their franchise guy, they hope they do, in Jaden Daniels. And this is early on in the season, so he might, experience some growing pains early on. I think the Giants should win this game. I think they're going to continue to own Washington, and I think they start off the season 2-0. Now you're thinking to yourself, whoa, you got the Giants off to a good start. What's going on here? Not so fast. So then they take on the Browns in Cleveland. Now, could they win this game? Listen, Deshaun Watson hasn't played well with the Browns. He's coming off of a shoulder injury. Could the Giants win this game? Force some turnovers? Put themselves in good position to cash in? They could, but I'm going to give them a loss here. So they're going to be 2-1. Then you get to Dallas. They come into MetLife. And the last time the Cowboys played at MetLife Stadium, well, they beat the Giants 40-0. Now, I don't think it's going to be 40-0, but I think the Cowboys will win this game. So the Giants will be 2-2. So there you go. You went 2-0. Now you're going to be 2-2 at this point. Then at Seattle. It's a tough game. And they played in Seattle a couple of years ago, and they didn't win that game. I think the final score was like 27-13 or 20. They lost by a couple scores. I think they're going to lose here. Tough environment. I think Seattle's a better team. I think the Giants could be competitive in this game, but I think they'll lose this game too. So they're dropping 3 straight. Then we got the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, taking on the Giants. First of all, I don't know why they're putting this game on Sunday night. I don't know. I don't know why they decided to do this. I guess to showcase the Bengals and their playmakers and Joe Burrow. But, yeah, not a fan of this matchup. I think the Giants will lose that game. So they have dropped now 4 straight. 2-4. And they take on the Eagles. Eagles are going to be a better team this year. And you got Saquon Barkley coming in, and he's going to want to run all over this Giants defense. Now, the Giants played well against the Eagles last year, especially the last game of the season. I mean, they almost came back against them in Philly. But I got to give it to the Eagles. So that'll drop the Giants to 2-5. Then they take on Pittsburgh. And this game, I feel like, could go either way because, look, we got to see how Russell Wilson does with the Steelers. He's not the same Russell Wilson that he once was in Seattle. Game could go either way. Steelers at home, though, I'm going to say the Giants lose again, and they're going to fall to 2-6. Now, could they steal one of the games in between this Week 3 and Week 8 stretch? I think the Steelers, that's one game that they maybe have a good shot at winning. Or like the game in Seattle. But, or actually, well, or the game in Cleveland, because again, Deshaun Watson, there's some question marks there. But no, I got them going 2-6. Then they take on Washington again at home. I'm giving them a win. Listen, Washington, you got to prove to me that you could beat the Giants. You did that when they were awful in 2021, but I think the Giants just own Washington. I think that's going to continue. I think they sweep Washington yet again, and I think they beat the Panthers. So they're going to be 4-6, taking on the Bucs at home. I'm going to say they steal this game. They're going to go win 3 straight, go to 5-6. Then they play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That is a loss. 5-7. Then the Saints come to town. I think they can win that game. Saints were inconsistent last year. I think the Giants could win that game. Then their next 4 games are tough. I mean, Ravens, I'm going to give them a loss. Even though they did beat the Ravens a couple of years ago. But I'm going to give them a loss there. Ravens got a really good defense, and of course you got the reigning MVP coming in. At the Falcons, I mean, we'll see where they're at this point in the season. I'm going to say they lose that game as well. Colts come to town. Anthony Richardson's hopefully playing still. It's going to be a tough game. Colts are probably going to be fighting for a playoff spot. Could go either way, but I'm going to give the Giants another loss. And then, I mean, the Eagles game will be interesting because the Eagles could have everything locked up. And, the Giants could, maybe win that game if the Eagles are playing their backups. But I'll give them a loss. So, I think that equals about, I got them going either 6-11 or 7-10. So, like, I had the Vikings, them winning against the Vikings, them winning against the Commanders. That's 2 wins. Winning 3 straight, so that's 5. Against the Commanders, again, the Panthers and the Bucs. Winning against the Saints, so that's 6. Yeah, 6 or 7 wins, I think, for the Giants. And they finished 6-11 last year. I think that's doable. Again, I'm not really expecting a lot out of them this year. I think their defense, that's something to be excited about, but you still got question marks at quarterback. And we could very well see Drew Lock play. We could very well see Tommy DeVito play. But we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about the Giants' schedule. How do you see them doing this year? Again, I don't think 6 or 7 wins is that outrageous. In fact, that could be being a little bit positive, too positive with them. But, I mean, they did make it to the playoffs a couple of years ago. They're not so far removed from that. But, I mean, the way last year went, it was like a complete 180. Now, again, they finished the season strong. And as a Giant fan, you're hoping to carry that into this season. But, again, where is that really going to get you? I still think Dallas is better. I still think the Eagles are better. The gap is wide between those teams. So, and until the Giants get the right quarterback, I mean, it's going to continue to be that way. But they have some other things that they need to continue to address, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see how everything goes. I mean, they address the offensive line. Like I said, you got to be excited about the defense. They got a number 1 wide receiver in Malik Neighbors, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so 6-11, 7-10. That's what I see the Giants doing in 2024. So actually, Before we go into our next break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about Josh Allen praising rookie wide receiver Keon Coleman, talking about his impact, what his impact could be for the 2024 season in the Bills offense. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about Josh Allen praising rookie wide receiver Keon Coleman. So we talked about Antonio Brown filing for bankruptcy in the first segment. We also talked about the Giants' schedule. I broke it down, gave you my early win-loss prediction with the Giants, and I said they'd either go 6-11 or 7-10. That's kind of where I'm at right now with them. So now we're going to talk about the Bills. And the Bills are a team that, well, went through a lot of changes. There's no more Stefon Diggs. And let go of some guys on defense. I know Mitch Morse, their center, went to Jacksonville. So they did lose some pieces. And they kind of, well, they also lost Gabe Davis. So they kind of, it's a new receiving core going into 2024, pretty much. Now, you still got Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox and Khalil Shakir, James Cook, but they added pieces, whether it was through the draft or free agency. Through the draft, we're going to talk about him in a second. Keon Coleman, you got Marquez Valdez-Scantling they added, Chase Claypool, Mac Hollins, Curtis Samuel. That's the receiving core that the Bills are going to rock with in 2024. And some people may say it's not a very good receiving core, but they have spoken very highly of, well, and Josh Allen has spoken very highly of Keon Coleman. And he was taken with the 33rd overall pick out of Florida State. And this is what he had to say, Josh Allen, on Keon Coleman. I think his play style is what we needed in our offense. Talking with our offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, our quarterbacks coach, Ronald Curry, general manager Brandon Beane, and obviously coach Sean McDermott, a guy that's a big-bodied guy and can go win a back shoulder fade and not afraid to be a physical wide receiver. I think you pair him with some of the guys we have in our room right now. I think Mac Hollins has been such a great addition so far to that room with his mentality. His mindset is infectious to others. Curtis Samuel, he's been showing up every single day ready to work. You start pairing those guys up with Dawson Knox and Coleman in the mix now, we're going to have a pretty solid group that works together. And let's see if there was anything else that he said. I think it starts here in OTAs. I'm fortunate enough to have those guys in the building right now. We're throwing throughout practice. We're taking extra reps after practice. Obviously, this time of year, you've only got a certain amount of time where you can get those reps. So just doing some stuff, some extra stuff, or stuff extra, and finding time. We'll get that month off, if you will, in late June, early July. Try to find a window where we can get together and throw again, just to make sure that we're staying on top of things and getting as much reps as possible. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting how this Bills wide receiving core is. And like I said, I expect Josh Allen to still have a good year. And I feel like that cloud, and that cloud meaning Stefon Diggs, now not being there anymore, I think that will that freed Josh Allen a little bit, and I think that'll help a little bit from that aspect. Now, I think there's going to be times where they are going to miss Stefon Diggs, because Diggs was a key contributor to this team for the last several years now. And I know that his role kind of got diminished towards the end of the year, but I still think just his presence alone on the football field, I think it's going to be missed to a certain extent. So Keon Coleman had a solid 2023 season with Florida State, 50 receptions, 658 yards receiving, 11 touchdowns. That's the big number right there, 11 touchdowns. And yeah, he's a 6'4", 215-pound receiver. And like Josh Allen said, they need somebody like that in this offense. And like I said, it's going to be interesting. The Bills' receiving core is going to be different. But, when you hear your quarterback speaking highly of you like that, that's got to give you confidence. That's got to give a young player confidence. And we'll see how it works. And the Bills, they play, the division's going to be better in 2024. It is. And I did my rankings. I had the Bills finishing in second. Got them ahead of the Dolphins. Got them behind the Jets. I still think this team can make the playoffs. I think that a lot of people, because of the moves that were made and the guys that they let go, many people are turned off by that. I mean, I was too. But I think you got to respect this quarterback, and you got to respect the head coach. Now, the playoff success has not been there, but you got to give them credit, because this team, they were left for dead in the regular season. After that overtime loss to the Eagles, many people thought the Bills are done, but that was not the case. They won out, and then the final game of the regular season against the Dolphins in Miami, they won that game, and they ended up getting the 2 seed. It's crazy, again, to think that they could have gotten the 2, well, they ended up getting the 2 seed, but it was either the 2 seed or they could have flat out just missed the playoffs entirely if they lost to the Dolphins. Now, luckily for them, they won that game. They didn't have to play, well, they ended up playing the Chiefs anyways, but they sent the Dolphins to Kansas City to play in that cold weather, and they got the Steelers in the first round, which was a game we all knew they were going to win, and they did. But then they faced that team that has been a problem for them for years in the postseason, and they couldn't get done. And now, many people think they're super. Now, I don't think this team is a Super Bowl team. I think this team is definitely a playoff team. And that has a lot to do with my confidence in Josh Allen. Now, I think there's some pressure on him to go out there and succeed, because now there's no Stefon Diggs. And when Josh Allen first got into the league, he struggled. And then the Bills got him a number 1 wide receiver. He had Brian Dable bringing him along, and Josh Allen turned into one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, since Brian Dable has left, the turnovers have kind of reared their ugly head once again. And now there's no Stefon Diggs. So is Josh Allen going to completely revert back to how he was when he first got into the league? I don't think so. I don't think so. But, like I said, I think to some extent that they're going to miss Stefon Diggs. But Josh Allen could go out there and he can have a season like Patrick Mahomes had when they traded Tyreek Hill. Many people, there were people saying that the Chiefs would not make the playoffs the year they traded Tyreek Hill. And what happened? They didn't miss a beat. They ended up winning the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying the Bills are going to do that, but that's what happens when you have a generational talent at quarterback. Now, I think Patrick Mahomes is in a class of his own, and Josh Allen, to me, is, a top 3 quarterback. So, and the Bills are a team that, they haven't gotten to a Super Bowl. They got to a championship game, but they lost. And since that was the COVID year, they haven't gotten back to that point. The farthest they've gone is the divisional round. Now, I think they could get there once again, but can they go further? But there's a lot of good teams in the AFC. There's a couple of teams that they're going to be battling it out for playoff spots in their own division. So you got to deal with that. And then you got everybody else. Whether it's all the teams in the AFC North, if some of the teams in the AFC West are making a push. Like, I think the Chargers will be in the mix because of Harbaugh, and we'll talk about Harbaugh shortly. And then you got all the teams in the South. That division's going to be competitive. So there's a lot of teams that could be in the mix. And I brought that up a lot. But I think what will separate a lot of these teams is your quarterback play. Josh Allen can carry this team on his back. He definitely can. And I think that is what can ultimately separate them from a lot of these teams that are going to be, battling it out for wild card spots. And the Bills could still win the division too. But we'll have to see. But when it comes to Keon Coleman, like I said, when you got your star quarterback giving you praise early on, that's got to give you confidence. And like I said, especially as a young player that's just getting his feet wet in the NFL. So we'll see what kind of season that he can have. Let me know what you guys think. What are your expectations for Keon Coleman in his first season with the Bills? Again, they got some veteran receivers to surround him. Like I said, they added Curtis Samuel. That move I liked. Khalil Shakir, I think, is going to have a breakout year. Or he could have a year like Gabe Davis, where after the 4-touchdown performance against the Chiefs, kind of just is the same. But I think Khalil Shakir is a good player for them. So you got Khalil Shakir there. Curtis Samuel, I like that move. And then you got some other veteran receivers there as well, looking to make an impact. You got a couple of good tight ends. And you got a running back that they relied upon a lot towards the end of the year. And that was something that even, before doing this show, I would say it on my radio show at my school, the Bills were one-dimensional because they just really didn't run the football. Josh Allen was their best runner. So, but I think they could have a balanced offense. And again, they still have their quarterback. So, but we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think about Keon Coleman. What are your expectations for him? And how do you see the Bills performing? How do you see their offense doing now with Stefon Diggs not being in the fold? So, we're going to take now our third break of the show. When we come back, we will talk about Jim Harbaugh, his approach to OTAs, and how he's kind of already changing the culture with the Chargers. So that's what we'll do when we come back from our third break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk about Jim Harbaugh and how he's already changing the culture of the Chargers. So, one of the things that the Chargers used to do a lot is they would play music during practice, and that is not the case now. There's no music. And there seems to be an emphasis on conditioning. The last 10 minutes of practice is focused on conditioning drills such as sled pulls and medicine ball carries. And look, the Chargers, they're coming off of whatever you want to call it, an abysmal season. They went 5-12, dealt with a lot of injuries, but also, the wheels kind of fell off for Brandon Staley. And he got fired before the regular season even ended. When they lost to the Raiders on that Thursday night, the Raiders won, 63-21, something like that. Chargers just gave up on him. And the Chargers needed to make a big splash because they have a franchise quarterback that is looking to, get himself back in the conversation as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And that's Justin Herbert. And they went out and got Jim Harbaugh, a guy that wherever he's gone, as you can hear, I think you heard that, jets flying over my house here. There's actually, where I'm at, there's also an air show that's going to be going on this weekend because it's Memorial Day weekend. So if you heard that, that's what that has to do with. But anyways, the Chargers brought in Jim Harbaugh. And wherever he's gone, he has been successful. Won a national championship with Michigan, really turned that program around. And then you go back to, my lifetime with the 49ers. I mean, the 49ers were not very good at one point. And then he turned them around, went to a few NFC championship games. Went to one in 2011, lost to the Giants. They went to the Super Bowl the following year, and then they went to another NFC championship game and lost to Seattle. And he lost the Super Bowl against his brother, who he will be coaching against for the first time in a long time this upcoming season. That'll be late in the year. I think that's a Monday night matchup. And I should know this because I literally just went over all the primetime games earlier this week. But yeah, it is I believe it is a Monday night matchup. But yeah, I mean, wherever he's gone, he has turned franchises or programs, whatever you want to call it, around. And I think he's going to do that with the Chargers. Now, the Chargers look a little bit different because, especially on offense, because, there's no more Austin Eckler, there's no more Keenan Allen, there's no more Mike Williams, Gerald Everett's gone as well. Gerald Everett and Keenan Allen are both on the Bears. Eckler's with the Commanders, Mike Williams is now with the Jets. So it's going to be a new look offense for the Chargers. But one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to run the football a lot. And that only is going to help out Justin Herbert. That's going to take some pressure off of him. Now, they basically brought in the Ravens backfield, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And those are two guys that have an injury history, especially J.K. Dobbins, who unfortunately for him just can't seem to stay healthy. But when he does play, he's a productive player. It's just he cannot stay healthy. So they got the Ravens backfield basically. But yeah, running the football is going to be something that they're going to do a lot. And, with Justin Herbert, but you got Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert can sling it. Now, like I said, his top two receivers these last couple of years are no longer there. So you got Quentin Johnston. You got Joshua Palmer. They drafted a couple of receivers. Actually, I think they drafted a few receivers. They drafted Jerry Rice's son. They drafted Ladd McConkey from Georgia. So it's going to be a new look offense. But when it comes to the no nonsense at OTAs, like how I have the segment title labeled here, he really wants there to be no distractions. He wants his team to be ready to go. If they're emphasizing conditioning, he wants his team to be in the best shape possible. Actually, the other thing too is, let's not forget, they also drafted Joe Alt as well, one of the best tackles in the draft, or the best tackle in the draft, to to go along with what they already have on the other side with Rashawn Slater. They want to protect their quarterback as well. That's the other thing, too. But no music, emphasis on conditioning. He wants his team to be in good shape. He wants his team to be focused. And, maybe some of this stuff that he's kind of, shutting down for the moment, they kind of have to earn it. Because, again, the Chargers are coming off of a bad year. And some of that maybe could have come from them just not being focused. But I guess maybe when they have a head coach that they don't necessarily believe in, then they're not going to be focused. So, like for me with the Chargers, I'm not expecting them to go out there and have this great year and be one of the best teams in the AFC and, dethrone the Chiefs right off the bat for the division. I don't expect that in year one with Harbaugh. But as he continues to build up this team, the following season and beyond that, this team is going to be a problem. And they have their franchise quarterback. And Justin Herbert should have a playoff win. I mean, the fact that he was a part of that collapse against the Jaguars in the playoffs when they were up 27-0 still blows my mind. Because the Chargers should have held on to that lead and won the game. Now, I do say it blows my mind that happened, but, I mean, how many times now have we seen teams blow huge leads? I mean, go back to the Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Falcons. No, nothing will ever top that. For me, nothing will ever top that. Like, how that happened, and it was towards the end of the third quarter, and they were able to mount a comeback, win the game, win the Super Bowl. It's because when that happened, now with the Chargers and the Jaguars came back against the Chargers, I really just had no reaction to it because I'm like, I've seen this before. But the fact that Justin Herbert was playing quarterback and they were not able to hold on to that lead, they should have. And now he has a legit head coach. And I did like Brandon Staley at one point because I liked how he was, gambling and, gambling on like fourth downs, not like, sports betting, not sports gambling. But I guess you could say it's sports gambling because, you're coaching a football team. But anyways, because I liked it in the very beginning. It's like, wow, he's really, trusting his quarterback. They're getting these first downs. This is great. But then, when it started not to work and he still continued to do it and he wouldn't take the points, that was kind of his downfall, part of his downfall. And I think you could look at, because I think there was parts of the game against the Jaguars where he went for it and he wasn't supposed to. He should have just taken the points, and that kind of played a role in the Jags coming back. Again, I have to go back and look because that game happened, 2 years ago now. So, or going to be 2 years. But listen, I like this approach by Harbaugh. He wants his team to be focused, be in the best shape. And then when we get to, training camp, preseason, regular season, this team is going to be in the best shape possible. Their minds are going to be right. They're going to be focused, and they're going to be ready to roll. Now, who do the Chargers open up against? I don't know off the top of my head. I want to look. And we'll obviously go through their schedule when we get to it. But we do have a long way to go. So the Chargers, they open up against the Raiders. Okay. And it's a home game. Well, it doesn't really matter. SoFi Stadium is not home field for those two teams, between them and the Rams. But it will be against the Raiders, which I think that game could get them off on the right foot. Actually, their first three games, I could see them starting off 3-0, 2-1. And then they play the Chiefs week 4. And that's a 4:25 p.m. Eastern time game on CBS. So that's a Jim Nantz, Tony Romo vehicle. We'll see. But like I said, I'm not expecting the Chargers to, again, be one of the top teams in the AFC. But I think they can make the playoffs in Harbaugh's first year. And then the following year, that's when you could really see them, be a force here. But you still got the Kansas City Chiefs you got to deal with in that division. So, but let me know what you guys think about Harbaugh, and it's a little too much that he's not letting them play music. I think if they start playing, if they're playing well, they're practicing well, I think that's something that can come back. But I think he just wants everybody to be focused and get them in the right shape for the season. So we're going to take our final break of the show now. When we come back, we'll talk about the Giants once again. We'll talk about Daniel Jones and his confidence for Week 1 coming off of the ACL injury. So he's confident that he's going to play. So we will discuss that when we come back from our final break of the show today. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about Daniel Jones and his confidence in getting back onto the field in Week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. So, from the article I was looking at, showed no ill effects while participating in individual and 7-on-7 drills on Thursday. And this is 6 months after injuring his knee against the Raiders. So this is what he said. He said, it feels good, felt good out there. But just getting back in the swing of things and playing football against the defense, against guys moving around, I thought it was good. Continue to kind of progress and continue to work on things. And he's not wearing a brace on his knee. And Brian Dable said his movement skills have been good. Jones feels strongly, given the progress he's made, about being ready for the start of the season. No, I don't have any doubts about it right now, he said. And the media talked to him about, the Giants supposedly trying to move up in the draft to draft another quarterback. And they asked him if, that fired him up. And he said, yeah, I wasn't fired up about it. And said he was chuckling after he said that. I think it's part of it at this level. Like I said, what I can do is focus on myself, getting healthy and playing the best football that I can play, and that I know I'm capable of playing. That is my job, and that is what I'm going to do. And, yeah, I think that's the right mindset to go about it. He also said, I don't think you could take anything personally at this level. How exactly it happened and what happened, I'm not sure I know. I'm not sure you know. At the end of the day, I'm focused on playing good football. He also said, yeah, I feel good about where we're going. I feel good about this team, and my job is to get healthy and play good football. And Brian Dable said he looks good. We're not putting him in some team stuff, but he's making progress, so that's why we got him in 7-on-7. And also Jones said, just continue day by day with the process. I think we're in a good spot. Obviously, the goal is to be ready to go by the first day of training camp, but I'm going to push to be ready as soon as possible. I have a lot of trust and faith in our trainers and coaches. And I feel like if the Giants did take a quarterback and Jones was on the roster, I mean, yeah, he wouldn't be too thrilled about it. But I feel like, I don't know, for me, I feel like he would go about it the right way. I don't think he'd be bitter towards the pick. I think he, it would be one of those things where you're trying to push each other to, be better. Kind of like with Justin Fields, what he was saying with him and Russell Wilson. I feel like Daniel Jones would be the same way. Like, you're going to go out there and compete. And it's like that now because you have Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock that, they're going to want to start. But actually, I saw something that said Drew Lock did not look good in OTAs. So, but I didn't really look into it. But anyways, yeah, I mean, those guys are going to be pushing themselves to be better. And Daniel Jones, I think he views him, he's the starter. And he's going to want to go out there and show that, listen, I'm the guy. I'm still the guy. Now, for me, I don't really have that confidence in him. I don't think he's going to be the guy. I don't think he is the guy. But, would I be happy if he goes out there and he throws 30 touchdowns and 8 interceptions this year and passes for around 4,000 yards? Rushing touchdowns come back. I would be thrilled. I'd be happy if he proves me wrong. But I just don't see it. And it might not even come from his performance on the field. It might just come from the fact that he can't stay on the field because he gets hurt. Had his second neck injury in 3 years. And on top of that, he tore his ACL. And go back to the COVID season, because I think what was it? I think did he strain his hamstring? And he missed some time, because then Colt McCoy had to start. And they won that game in Seattle. And people were like, wow, Giants maybe can make the playoffs. But yeah, he hurt his, I think it was a leg injury. I think it was the hamstring. But yeah, he's been hurt a lot. His rookie season, he got hurt. And Eli Manning had his swan song. He was able to have his swan song because Jones got hurt. It's just, that could be the other thing. 2022, Daniel Jones did stay healthy, though. He played every game except the final week, but the Giants pretty much, they had their playoff spot locked up, so that's why he sat. But he played the full season. So, yeah, look, I think Daniel Jones, I don't think he should just be anointed the starter. I think they should have it be a competition, and then whoever plays the best they feel should be the starter. It shouldn't just be, Daniel Jones, you're the starter. Now, it's his job. Is he realistically the best option? Yes. But, if he struggles, give one of these other guys a shot. Whether it's Drew Lock, who, has won games before. Tommy DeVito won a few last year. If Daniel Jones struggles, they might have a short leash on him, and they might put in somebody else. But we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's encouraging, at least, that he's improving and he feels like he's ready to go for when the Giants open up the season against the Vikings, which I did say was a game that I think they can win. I think the Giants could get off to a 2-0 start. But after that, it's going to be that week 3 through 8. Yeah, that's a rough stretch. But we'll have to see how it goes. Like I said, the Giants played well towards the end of the year. They addressed the offensive line. I know they lost Saquon Barkley, but you gave Daniel Jones another weapon in Malik Neighbors. You're going to be backed by a good defense. Let's see how it goes. But like I said, when I did the schedule breakdown, it's going to be 6-11 or 7-10. And if that's the case, Daniel Jones is probably not going to be a Giant. Now, where are the Giants going to look? I don't know. I mean, there's the draft, and I don't think you're going to see a Hall of Fame quarterback become available all of a sudden. So, maybe it's Tommy DeVito. Who knows? No, it's not Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito, like I said on previous shows, deserves a spot on the team. Does not deserve to be the starting quarterback, the franchise quarterback. That's not what he is. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting year for the Giants, but like I said, I don't really expect Daniel Jones to go out there and light it up. I think you're going to see, you might see stats similar to 2020 or 2022 when he did have, he had a lot of rushing touchdowns, but the touchdown to interception ratio wasn't that impressive. I don't know. But like I said, I hope he proves me wrong. I really hope he proves me wrong. Because then that means the Giants do have their guy. Because I also don't like hearing people in the media just bash him. I mean, I know I've bashed him, but I don't like when I hear other people bash him. But yeah, the Giants gave him that contract, and maybe you should have gave Barkley, should have prioritized paying Barkley over him. But again, I mean, you could see both sides of the argument because, I mean, Barkley dealt with his injuries too. So if you gave Barkley all that money, what if Barkley gets hurt? Barkley missed time in 2023. They both did. So, but yeah, I think that's enough for the Giants talk, and that's enough with the show for today. Actually, make sure to check out Emran's show last night, the soccer podcast host here. Myself and Manny, the host of the Chip Shot Football Podcast, we made an appearance on that. So I did talk some soccer a little bit. I did my best. I tried to follow along. So we had some technical issues, but we were able to make it work. You hear what we say. So both very knowledgeable of the sport. But I'm knowledgeable of this football, American football. So, but yeah, make sure to go check that out. That's up on both channels. And also make sure to check out all the other shows. I know, I forget, because again, we were put in groups, so I forget who's making appearance on what shows for everybody else today. So just watch all the shows today to find out. Check them all out. We got playoffs still going on in both the NHL and the NBA. Celtics are up 2-0 against the Pacers. I know I was watching a little bit of the Stars and the Oilers last night. The hockey playoffs, I just got to say, I haven't watched them, from beginning to end. But, all these games are, so competitive. It's great. But it hurts me as an Islanders fan because I wish they were like that, but they're not. They used to be. But not right now. So, yeah, you got that. I mean, baseball is still going. My Yankees, as you see back here, they're playing really well. So, yeah, I mean, listen, we cover pretty much every sport. So make sure to check out everybody's shows. We appreciate it. And, yeah, I hope everybody has a good Memorial Day weekend. We'll be back again next week. So, yeah, that is all the time that we have for today. Like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again next week. 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.